There is one thing that every living person will experience: dying. A phenomenon which is so familiar, yet something we know so little about. The feeling of death is a concept that has been in question since the beginning of humanity, and one that modern science is continuously trying to discover. So, what does it feel like to die? Firstly, we need to take a look at what death actually is. Dying is the end of all vital functions within the human body, where our heartbeat, brain activity, and breathing all come to a stop. Everyone experiences death differently. What we do know is that once you're dead, your life in this body is over forever. But is this always the case? You've probably heard about those people who have died and come back to life, and when they wake, they say they saw a light at the end of the tunnel, or that they floated above their bodies, watching the doctors frantically work to keep them alive. Humans are fascinated, yet terrified, by merely the concept of death. A lot of that fascination stems from the fact that most of us can't comprehend its entirety. It's the fear of the unknown, as we don't know how unpleasant or painful it will be. With the help of modern science, we are continuing to develop a more in-depth perspective on what it might feel like to die. There are many ways people can die, and every person will die differently. Every person will have a different experience. You may be unlucky enough to have diabetes, cancer, or even an unintentional accident. Although each of these causes are different, they all have something in common: a heart that stops beating. A human heart is fundamental in order to stay alive. The key principle may explain why the most common cause of death stems from the heart failing to pump blood around the body. Statistics show that heart disease is the #1 cause of death worldwide, with an estimated 30% of people dying from associated diseases. Heart disease refers to any condition affecting the heart, such as a heart attack or stroke. The heart is a muscle about the size of your fist, which pumps blood around your body to keep you alive. But blood cannot be pumped if there's a buildup of plaque causing narrowed or blocked blood vessels. In most cases, this is called a heart attack. Although a heart attack may seem to cause death rapidly, common warning signs tend to appear a few days or even weeks before. A heart attack may trigger electrical abnormalities that can lead to a sudden cardiac arrest. And without immediate CPR, you would be dead within a few minutes. Most people don't like to think about it. But besides the more conventional way of dying, with the loved ones around you, there are more agonizing and painful ways to die, such as burning alive and drowning. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a raging fire. The pain you feel at the start is by far the greatest. As the fire slowly fries your nerves, your muscles and brain functions start to weaken. This continues to worsen until you fall unconscious from the lack of oxygen your body is receiving. But by this point, you are either unconscious, about to die, or already dead. The pain alone would cause a loss of consciousness almost instantly. What if it felt like you were burning, but from the inside? People have described the feeling of inhaling water as a burning sensation within their chest. It is a human instinct not to breathe underwater, but when you drown, immediate stress, panic and discomfort is caused due to a lack of oxygen. The panic from running out of air is exhausting, which quickly causes you to run out of energy and inhale the water. The water then floods the lungs and ends any transfer of oxygen into the blood. It's a rare and undesirable way of dying. In instances of an abrupt cause of death, adrenaline plays a big role in the physical sensations felt by the person. Put simply, faster deaths are often less painful. However, when the cause of death is more gradual, a process called active dying takes place. When a death takes place over a few hours or days, your senses start to fade in a particular order. Hunger and thirst are the first senses to go. After a while, you start to lose the ability to speak, followed by the ability to see. Hearing and touch are typically the last senses to go. However, scientific researchers have evidence that some people may be able to hear while in an unresponsive state, like being in a coma, or at the end of your life. Data shows that in the last hours before death, dying brain cells can respond to sound, even in an unconscious state. So does that mean your brain is still active when you're dead? The time of death is typically recorded as the moment the heart stops beating. This generally implies that the rest of your body will no longer receive a blood supply to sustain the cells of organs, in this case like the brain. Despite this, several studies have shown that your brain still functions, even after death. So, are you aware when you're actually dead? When you die, you are essentially trapped within your own body, with brain cells that are still active. Although this may only last a few seconds, it's weird to think that your body may die, but not your brain. When the heart stops pumping, there is a lack of blood flow to the brain. This causes tingling sensations in the body, dizziness, and a feeling of extreme hot or cold temperatures, all while your vision will start to go, and awareness of the world around you will diminish. After some time, you'll be in an unconscious state, and will eventually die. 1 out of 5 people whose hearts stop beating will be revived. These are often referred to as near-death experiences. A near-death experience is an unusual incident that occurs on the brink of death, which then gets relayed by the person when they recover. These experiences listed tend to be things they have seen: tunnels leading to a bright light, spiritual encounters with deceased loved ones, and other things that seem mystical. From a scientific perspective, none of these things are verifiable. But how could they be? After all, they are only something that person themselves can witness. In 1981, 28-year-old Scott Drummond went on a skiing trip to Utah with a few of his friends. When he was queuing for the lift, all of a sudden a lady skiing down the slope ran into him. Thinking nothing of it, he continued to ski for the rest of the day. When he was heading home, he took off his glove and noticed that his thumb had been completely ripped out of its socket. He knew this would require some medical attention, so he was taken to the nearest hospital, where he was scheduled for a routine surgery on his hand. While he was lying in the operating theater, he was fully aware of his surroundings. Scott overheard a nurse expressing concern as it was her first time helping conduct the surgery. During the operation, something went wrong, and the next thing he knew, he was above his own body, watching the panic unfold. It wasn't until this point that he realized he had died. He then described an experience walking peacefully through a field of long grass, with a big white cloud ahead of him. As he walked closer to the cloud, all of a sudden, he was watching a video of his life, from the day he was born to his moment of death. At this point, he awakened. He had been clinically dead for 20 minutes, and came back to life. He noted that his fear of death vanished after this encounter. Near-death experiences are the closest thing we have of knowing what it actually feels like to die. We're still searching whenever and however we can to find the answer, whether that's through scientific research or through listening to people, like Scott, recount their first-hand experience with death and what it feels like. Death is a physical process which changes over an unpredictable length of time. When you die, you grow weaker and weaker. You become sleepy, and you lose your appetite. When you don't eat or drink, you don't suffer with feelings of thirst or hunger, the way any healthy person would. The liver, kidneys, heart, and major organs begin to fail, and your brain shuts down. But what actually happens when your brain shuts down? When you're alive, your brain cells are constantly electrically charged, and when you die, these brain cells fizzle out due to the lack of oxygen. With no oxygen, there is no energy, and with no energy, your body dies. At the moment of death, there is a burst of energy released by cells which lasts between 30 to 180 seconds. The brain sends a signal to the heart, causing the heart to beat inconsistently, eventually causing damage to the organ. So even if you could recover from the moment of death, your heart wouldn't work. Your whole body shuts down. But remember, everyone dies differently, and it's almost impossible to depict what death feels like for each individual. But what we do know is that however physically painful it is, it varies. There are some deaths where pain is inevitable, and there is some where a patient just gets really old and fades away with less distress. Having a disease associated with your pain doesn't mean you'll necessarily have a painful death. Most people who die of serious disease tend to need medication, and usually with that medication, it works to not prevent death but to alleviate the symptoms, helping to reduce pain, providing them a peaceful and comfortable death. When you become too weak to cough or swallow, you may notice a noise starting to develop at the back of your throat. The noise can sound deeply disturbing, and it may seem like the patient is suffering, but as far as the doctors can tell, the person dying is not suffering at all. In fact, medical researchers believe that this phenomenon, which is commonly called a death rattle, probably doesn't hurt or cause any discomfort at all. It is the human nature to question the unknown and to solve the puzzles of life. Curiosity and desire for exploration and discovery is something we all have, and something which drives us to uncover mysteries, such as death. Although we may have a better understanding of what it might feel like to die, what is beyond death? And what if when we die, we come back to life, but not in a body that we're used to, but as something else, as something that will exist till the end of time? But that's something for another video. If you did end up enjoying this video, then make sure to leave a like, also hit that subscribe button, and also the notification bell to be notified when we upload. Also, go ahead and check out some of our other content on our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.